If you're like me, you've probably watched every single motivational video that's out there. You've probably watched every kid that's 16 to 25 years old posting how they've made like $10 million a year right now. And everybody is making 10 grand a month. And what I will tell you is no amount of watching those videos is going to force you to getting results. But if you apply what I'm going to talk about inside this video, you'll be one of those people. You will even forget that they existed because you're making so much money that they're just not even on your radar. Tell you the truth, I don't really give a shit how much other people make. I think it's really cool. I live my own life. I've been able to make over $5 million in my 20s. And in this channel, I break down what are the things that were the mindset shifts that I had personally. And so you guys can take it or leave it ultimately at the end of the day. And the main thing that I found, the biggest reason why most people have a tough time having breakthroughs, making more money, some of the things that held me back from getting to where I'm able to make multiple six figures a month, and even some of the things that I know that are holding me back from making millions of dollars a month, is my why. You see, Simon Sinek talks about how everything stems from your why. Apple Computers is not a computer company. They're not a technology company, but instead they are a company that is a revolution. They're promoting change. They are contrarians to the norm. They're the heretic to the technology and to society. They're not a computer company. No company, no billion-dollar company that you see out there is a billion-dollar company for the sake of their ability to make great technology. All of these companies have in common that they have a strong why and a strong reason that they represent. And that is why they are able to generate billions of dollars. You see, investor Warren Buffett, he's not somebody who tries to find the craziest cash flow business, the most revolutionary technology. He doesn't even invest into cryptocurrency, but instead, the man invests into brands. That's why he invested into Geico. That's why he invested into Coca-Cola. That's why he invested his money into See's Candy, which is, became like one of his most successful investments that he ever made. And it was because they all had a strong why. And you see, the issue that you face, if you're not able to, even make a measly $10,000 a month, it's because you don't have a strong enough why. You don't have a reason to make the money. You'd be like, what are you talking about, Devin? Like, I want to go live this dream life. I want to drive supercars and go live in nice Airbnbs like you and go do whatever. The thing is, yeah, you may want to go do those things, but you don't have a dark why. You don't have like a real strong reason. I had one of my first mentors that helped me make my first, I think like $50,000 or so. One of the lessons that they taught me, I thought it was kind of weird at first, to tell you the truth, but I said, you know what, I'm going to listen. You're obviously made millions of dollars. I don't really know what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to follow suit, whatever it is that you have for me specifically. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave me was to pretend like your wife or your mom or your kids or somebody that's really important to you, your girlfriend. For me at the time, I think I used, my mom as the example, to pretend that they got kidnapped in a van and they are to be offed in 7 days if you can't make, whatever, $10,000 or whatever the amount of money it is. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. that's kind of a lot, I thought I just came here to make money. I didn't come here for trauma. But I thought about it for a little bit longer, and I came to the realization that I was like, this kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. Because right now, at the time, I was 18 years old, and I had no reason to make money. I had no reason to do anything differently. Because otherwise, if things didn't work out, then I was going to get my college degree in computer science. I was going to go get a job, work a 9-to-5 jobs for 40 years, put 10% of my paycheck into some 401k, and hope the government doesn't fuck with my money and I can become a millionaire by the time I retire. But this felt different, having a strong dark why. And like I wanted to be rich, but I didn't really have any strong motivators. So he came up with this thing called like a dark why, a dark reason. And it actually got me to do the work. I made $8,000 in the span of, I think it was like, it was a little bit longer than 7 days, but it was within a month. I felt like a madman. I was calling up, like I was doing weird shit that I would have never done before. As in, like, when I say weird stuff, I meant like I called people, other real estate investors, hey, do you have any deals? Can you help me find deals? Like I was trying to find creative ways to get the result that was outside of my comfort zone. You see, other times, whenever I had tried making money in the past, or I tried building businesses, I typically tried to just find the lowest path possible way of getting a result. Like, okay, what's the cheapest way of making $10,000 a month? What's the laziest way of making 10 grand a month? And to tell you the truth, I got a whole lot of nothing out of all of that. And I really made no progress whatsoever. Like there was no breakthroughs I had. I never got rich. I never, lived any sort of I never got anywhere with any of that by looking for like the easiest way of doing things. But then there was something that flipped inside of my head that I was looking for the right way of doing things. I started looking for just what's a way that's proven? What's a way that's proven that I can be rich without, having to work crazy amount of hours? But it was something that was feasible and I can kind of like enjoy my life in my prime years and not sacrifice those, slaving away, trying to work up some sort of corporate ladder. And so it was, once I found the proven path, I got proven advice. And the proven advice really at the end of the day was having a strong why. You see, most people don't have the comprehension or the ability of observing what their real strong motivations are, what their reasons are of doing more. So a lot of times we have to create some sort of really strong dark why just out of thin air, and that'll do justice. So I want you to pretend, if whatever your goal it is that you have, you want to be, join the Olympics, you want to, whatever it is, you want to put some sort of like dark reason on, if you don't hit the outcome, if you don't hit the goal, then something is going to happen. For some reason, it motivates us really good instead of like, oh, peace and running through a field of flowers and daisies and, everything's going to be all right and we're going to be blissfully, rich. But ultimately, we need something that's really strong. So a lot of times, most people that I see that these days, especially now that I've been a millionaire for some time, is a lot of the kids that are making lots of money, or just anybody who's making lots of money, usually they just have a strong reason why they want to make a ton of money. Typically, as lame as this is, they want to prove people wrong. Maybe they got bullied, maybe they got treated weird, in some sort of way, or people just didn't think that they could amount to anything in life. And so that's why you see a lot of people with like daddy issues, or especially like daddy issues, are some of the people that are so successful these days, is because they feel like they have something to prove. Now, I'm not somebody that grew up with any of that stuff, and I grew up in a pretty good childhood, and if anything, I had a lot going for me. Now, was I ever going to make like $1 million a year? Probably not, but I was going to probably try to make $70,000, $100,000 a year salary and try to get stock options and live a quote unquote good life. But it's not until you have like a really strong reason, a really strong motivation reason, that we actually step up and we find change. So you need to find something that's personalized to you, whether it's like, your wife or your spouse or your friend is kidnapped in a van and he's going to die if you don't make money. It's kind of dark, but it's a really good one. You can take it. You have to realize every company, like I was talking about at the beginning of this video, stems from having a strong why. And eventually you'll get to a really strong why. Like for example, one of my companies, our goal is to help 1 million people make their first dollar online, and to help 10,000 people make their first $10,000 online. And that's a pretty big reason. That's a pretty big why. And it's personalized to me because this is like the real reason, is because I remember one day my grandfather sat me down and he was showing me, his investment account. And I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, this is kind of cool. My family never talked about money. Talking about money was taboo. They never wanted me to worry about money, but I know that they weren't, well off. We weren't able to go to the amusement park when all the other kids were able to go to the amusement park growing up. And my grandfather showed me his retirement account, and I was pretty shocked to see what his actual situation was, because I was always curious, what was it like when you get to your later ages of your life. And he showed it to me, and he had $70,000 in his retirement account. And I hadn't had a lot of life experience at this point. I think I was just in college. But I knew that wasn't a whole lot of money. I know there wasn't much that you could do with that. If any sort of like, big emergency were to come up, especially as you get older, there's going to be all sorts of issues. Now, he's a very good man and has family who's able to have his back and support. But regardless, I realized like, wow, this man, he's a very intelligent guy. And I look up to him in so many different ways. But it was mind-blowing to me that somebody who's worked so hard in their life had this financial situation. Now, he also owned his house and, had some other things going for him. But that's most people. Most of their net worth is in their house. And then as far as like 401k or savings, it's not anything crazy, especially with inflation. $70,000 goes really quick. And especially, now the place that I'm in my life, I realize how fast $70,000 goes. Like I had $15,000 in my bank when I dropped out of college and I got my own apartment. And I did not realize how expensive furniture was. Like just furnishing my apartment was way more expensive than I could have possibly comprehended. Money was gone quickly, let alone, if you have doctor bills, you have prescriptions, you have any of that stuff, especially as you get older, you're fucked. And so I came to this realization that I needed to do something differently. And you're probably the same way, where you're starting to realize that kind of the status quo, the status way, the normal way of doing everything just straight up doesn't make sense. But then you're also, on the flip side of this, you're seeing, all this crazy amounts of technology, all of this development that's going on in the world, and yet you're not making money from it yet. And you know that there's just insane amounts of opportunity that's out there. And what you're looking for, to tell you the truth, my friend, is a strong why. What doesn't matter. What you do doesn't matter. Steve Jobs did not really care that he was selling computers, to tell you the truth. He cared that he was changing society. He cared that he valued doing something differently, thinking different. That was their slogan there. And he didn't really care that he was selling computers. It just so happened that was the product that was able to get them to accomplish this goal. And so for me, I don't really care how I make money, to tell you the truth. As long as it's not unethical or immoral or anything like that, I don't mind owning a plumbing business. I don't care if I have a donut shop and I have the best donuts in the world and people come all over the world. All I care about is that I have the best of whatever it is that I do and that it accomplished my greater goal. And at first, to tell you guys the truth, it was very personal. I just really wanted to just have a cool car, do whatever I wanted, not have to go work in a cubicle. Very surface level, wasn't anything crazy, to tell you the truth. But then over time, as I started making more money and as I was able to accomplish the goals that I had set forth, then I started to strive for bigger and bigger and greater things. But it wasn't until I started to, break a lot of the beliefs that I had and accomplish a lot of the goals that I set forth that then I started to strive for bigger things. And that's the situation that you are facing here yourself watching this video, is whether you're trying to make $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $1 million a month, you need to figure out why are you doing all this. And if you don't have a strong why, what are some great things that you can come up with? Family member gets kidnapped, you can kind of pretend to have happen. Whatever it is, you need to have a good reason, because otherwise your subconscious doesn't care about the work. All they care about is survival. Our primal brain just wants to survive. It just wants to make sure there's a roof over your head and you got food to eat. Besides that, you're okay. It's like, you ever see that meme or that picture where it's like, this is all the guys want. They just want a computer and a bed and a room, and that's pretty much it. Like Steve Jobs even did that at one point. He bought a house, literally no furniture. All he had was a desk in there, and that was it. At the end of the day, that's all that we really want and that we need and that we desire. But you see, most of us, we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves that we love our job and we love our life. We lie to ourselves that this is the way that everything's supposed to go, and we're not supposed to be some, person that's able to do whatever the hell they want in their lives. We lie to ourselves that we love our wife when, in reality, you guys haven't had any fun time in the past few years, sadly. And it's sad to see like a world full of that. We lie to ourselves in so many different ways. And so when does the time come to stop lying to ourselves? When does the time come to a realization that we are not satisfied with the life that we are living and that we are capable of so much more? And so if you are looking to finally break free, to finally do whatever it is that you want in your life, stop asking, what do I need to do? Instead, ask, why do I need to make change? And from there, my friend, you'll start to see everything else progress. So if you're looking more for the what's after you figure out your why, on this channel, I have made over 100 videos and we're on our path to hitting 100,000 subscribers. So what I want you to do is subscribe to the channel and go watch a bunch of the other videos. The last one I just made was incredible. And thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.